South Wales, May 6th, 2001. 31-year-old Jason Williams hasn't been seen for 12 days.
And he certainly would have been in touch at least by phone.
Police arrest 2 men, secure witnesses, and obtain damning DNA evidence. But this is no open and shut case.
There was no body.
Could Jason still be alive? With the police unable to find him, his family turned to a local psychic. But will the hard science of the police or supernatural skills find Jason first? Lacor, a quiet commuter town on the south coast of Wales. A person doesn't have to be missing for very long before somebody notices. Unemployed father Jason Williams has not been seen for 4 days. His sister Julie is worried by his lack of contact.
Jason was a very family-orientated person, very devoted to his son. He was very much a hands-on dad. He certainly would have been in touch at least by phone to speak to his son. So that was when the alarm bells first were raised.
Detective Chief Inspector Ken Isaac has lived and worked in the area for most of his life. An area where serious crime is extremely rare.
A missing person report in relation to Jason Williams commenced in the village of Lacor. There were general house-to-house investigations and speaking to his family and associates. So we expected from an early stage of the missing person inquiry that he would be found within a week or so.
Most missing persons in the UK are found within 3 days. After a week, the police still have no definite leads. The family grows desperate.
Leaving messages on his mobile phone for him. Obviously, every time the phone rings, you wonder, is it the police ringing with news?
But everybody kept an open mind that perhaps he's gone visiting somebody out of the area.
After 9 days and with little information from the police, Julie takes advice from a relative and contacts psychic Sue Evans to see if her worst fears are true.
Psychics have the ability to speak to spirit, so that if that missing person is dead, then psychics would be able to communicate with that dead spirit.
If she was a genuine article and could do what she said she could do, she might come up with a piece of information that would lead to finding him, so there wasn't any decision to make, really.
Right then.
Sue claims that tarot cards focus her psychic intuition and will allow her to discover what happened to Jason.
I use the tarot like some people use a crystal ball or tea leaves. And it's a way of me linking into their lives and finding out what's happened to them. To me, the tarot is how I communicate with spirit, as well as being able to predict.
Out of the 78 picture cards, Sue turns over the image that most strikes fear into those not familiar with the tarot, the death card.
The death card means change. Doesn't always mean death, but it does mean change. But because it's next to the moon, which indicates sadness to me, it does mean that there is sad changes around you. This is the Chariot, which means trauma. This is how you feel at the minute, as if everything has tumbled down around you, which is caused by all these preceding cards. And this is the 9 of swords, which indicates stress to come along with this. The cards did show us that there was trauma around Jason, but we weren't absolutely positive as to what had happened. But it does indicate that something has happened. So we'll have to remote view this if you want at a later stage.
Usually if people have, as she put it, gone over, she can pick them up fairly quickly. But I think you are always aware as well that there are charlatans out there that will prey on people's grief and make claims that are not true.
You know, it's not going to be cut and dried. It's one of those situations that it may take a while to get to the bottom of.
Sue says she can sense a disturbance around Jason, but is unable to contact him in the spirit world. This is a ray of hope to Julie that her brother may not be dead after all. 12 days after his disappearance, Sue tries to contact Jason again. She figures that where one psychic has failed, 2 will succeed. She calls upon her sister Kathleen.
We're asking Spirit to help us to find what happened to Jason.
Sue uses remote viewing, an unproven phenomenon that psychics claim allows them to witness events from a spirit's point of view.
We ask for protection and a gold light around us to help us work.
When I remote view, it's like watching a video or a television. You see details. You can see the layout of furniture, you can see the layout of rooms, you can pick up the atmosphere, which would lead up to a murder. You can then watch as if you're standing there as a witness.
Sue claims she is transported back to the murder scene with Jason as her spirit guide.
I found myself in a living room, and there was an older gentleman there and a younger gentleman, as well as Jason.
I see that there's a bit of agitation going on between Jason and the younger man.
What the psychic doesn't know is that her visions seem to match details revealed by a local man who has been brought in by police after claiming he witnessed the murder.
This started as a missing person investigation, and I always kept an open mind. Is this a missing person investigation, or is this a murder case?
Alan Sinfield says he was there when Jason was viciously attacked by 27-year-old Richard Davis.
Sinfield and Jason were friends. There was a vast age difference, some 20 years. What he told us is that they'd been drinking at his house. Davis and Williams had an argument over the fact that Davis saw Jodie Sinfield's telephone number in Jason Williams's phone.
All of a sudden it erupted like a balloon going pop. And there was a struggle.
Davis pulled Jason Williams onto the floor, straddled him.
And he was just sticking the knife in him in his chest and things in some kind of a vengeful, nasty way.
With no apparent knowledge of Sinfield's confession, Sue describes an older man and a younger man in the room with Jason, then a drunken murder. She has no doubts what this information is all about. Jason wants to ensure his killer is brought to justice.
There is an element of wanting justice done because somebody had taken his life.
It's 12 days since 31-year-old Jason Williams was last seen alive in Lochor, South Wales. This missing persons case takes a dramatic turn when a 57-year-old local man, Alan Sinfield, is interviewed by police.
This was turned into a murder investigation, primarily from the disclosure by Sinfield to the police saying that Richard Davis had killed Jason Williams, and he was a party to the disposal of his body.
For 24 hours, these details are not released even to Jason's family, yet somehow psychic Sue Evans' vision of the murder appears to match Sinfield's confession. The police remain open-minded over what has happened to Jason.
And we weren't sure at that stage, was he involved in the murder? Did he alone do the murder and blame Richard Davis? And they were things that we were hoping to clarify. Richard Davis was also arrested that night, and he was given an opportunity to give his version of events.
Davis protests his innocence and claims that although he had an argument with Jason, he left Sinfield's house with him still alive.
The interviewing officers felt it was a challenge, as if it was some type of game with him, or challenging the officers during each particular interview.
The police act fast and send in forensic teams to Sinfield's house. Now, both Ken Isaacs and Sue have terrible news to deliver.
One of the most difficult jobs for me was speaking to the family and telling them that he had been killed.
Initially, when we heard that he'd, been stabbed, it happened like probably 2 streets from where I lived. It was very strange to think that all that was going on in such a short distance from your home and you didn't know anything about it. We knew that these people had been charged with his murder, and I didn't feed that information to Sue, because if I did that, I would never be able to know whether she was genuine or not.
I have to tell you that I have been in contact with Jason's spirit. and I feel he has passed over. I'm sorry to have to tell you.
Sue tells Julie about her vision of Jason being in a room with two men and the drunken stabbing. Her details match the facts that the police have revealed to Julie earlier.
With regard to the information she's come up with, the accuracy of it, I can't logically tell you how she could come up with all those details.
Jason's spirit also seems to be providing Sue with more clues that could bring his killer to justice.
And Jason was pointing out that there would have been parts of the room splattered by the blood, and some had splattered onto a radiator.
With regard to the information she's come up with, the accuracy of it, I can't logically tell you how she could come up with all those details.
We need to see now what's happened to him since.
Julie is won over and approaches the police about working with the psychic, but they refuse the offer.
My take on the psychic involvement is that a psychic did not assist the investigation, and to my knowledge, Southwest Police has not used a psychic to help to prove any inquiry.
Yeah, I think, police have their hands tied by procedure, by budgets, by professional guidelines and standards. I mean, families are not tied by any of those things.
Frustrated by the police's response, Sue and Julie launch their own psychic hunt for the body, led by the spirit of Jason.
The key to any murder investigation is identifying where is the attack site and where is the body deposition site. We had an attack site, but we didn't initially have the body deposition site.
Without a body, the police could not be confident of convicting anyone for murder. At Sinfield's house, the forensic team have a breakthrough.
If we moved back the carpet, and we found there was two large pools of blood, and under the radiator were some small dots of blood.
Sue claims she predicted there would be blood close to a radiator. For her believers, this is proof that the psychic has access to the world of the paranormal. Psychometry is a controversial technique that supposedly allows seers to explore psychic imprints of objects touched by victims. Will this help Sue find Jason's body? She calls in her psychic troops.
Take a deep breath in.
We were asked to sit within the circle, and then I think a photograph and some things of Jason's, like a T-shirt, were passed around.
It helps when you have more people in circle, because each person's got a different psychic ability. So all these combined builds up the whole picture. So we saw that the body had been loaded into a van and taken up towards the Brecon Beacons. We saw the body being left very unceremoniously, but there was a tree that the branch of a tree had broke.
Are we anywhere near where your body is?
Jason showed us a Celtic cross. The unique thing about it is that he said there were 3 of these crosses.
And she said, this is near the spot where he was put.
I just keep saying it's so obvious. You're missing me.
Near there, that's where his body was.
South Wales, May 2001. The race to find the body of murder victim Jason Williams is on. Police detain 2 local men, Alan Sinfield and Richard Davis. Sinfield has pointed the finger at Davis, but he maintains his innocence. Whatever they say may be irrelevant. DCI Ken Isaac knows that without Jason's body, a murder conviction is practically impossible.
It was important for us to recover Jason's body for 2 reasons. Primarily, to prove the case of murder. There's been very few convictions or murder convictions where a body hasn't been recovered. And secondly, for the family, so they could have closure on the case.
At the same time, psychic Sue Evans has launched her own search. She claims that she is in touch with the spirit of Jason, and he has given her clues that will lead to the location of his body.
Where we were in terms of the jigsaw at this stage was that we had more pieces to put together to build the whole picture. We needed to know where the body might be to help find Jason.
Jason's sister is convinced by Sue's powers and asks the police to use her supernatural skills. But in the UK, busy murder investigation teams often discount the work of psychics. While Sue and Julie embark on their own hunt for more clues, the police act upon Sinfield's admission that he helped Davis dispose of the body.
Following Richard Davis killing Jason Williams, they wrapped his body up in black plastic bags. And he and Sinfield went around the Brecon Beacons looking for a place to dispose of Jason's body.
Assigned this near impossible task of finding Jason's body in over 500 square miles of moorland is search expert John Williams.
The area is so big. Unless we had some indication as to where Jason was, then we were literally clutching at straws.
What the police have that Sue doesn't is the help of one of the men who dumped Jason's body.
We drove quite a few hundred miles over the days I was with him. I can recall him saying that they drove onto a grass verge at some point. And on my left-hand side, I could see some tyre marks that were on the grass verge. I looked further along the road from where the tyre marks were, and I could see a white bag. On top of the bag, there was a stone. And it just seemed strange. This was in the middle of nowhere. There was absolutely nothing about, and why is a stone suddenly being put on top of a carrier bag?
Sue's psychic investigation has already shown her Jason's body dumped on the Brecon Beacons. Will her visions of Celtic crosses and a broken tree turn out to be meaningful?
The first thing I saw at this point, I could see that this area was flattened, and that was quite obvious. You could then see the tree trunk here, and you could see that some bark was removed from the main sort of trunk area. It just looked as if somebody put their foot in it. I was more than satisfied that this was a scene, more than satisfied.
As Sue predicted, it seems that Jason has been dumped near a broken tree. Now police meticulously search for his body or further evidence.
It was literally a shoulder-to-shoulder, slow time search from the roadway into where I felt Jason was placed.
We'd heard that they'd actually sealed off an area in Brecon and forensic teams were searching it.
For 12 hours, police search experts painstakingly examine an area that is almost the size of a football pitch. Miraculously, they discover a human hair.
He came up trumps because his hair was found interwoven with grass and bracken. For that particular scene, to find his hair was fantastic.
I think at that point we were hoping that they would find him.
The hair is sent off for DNA testing to secure a match with Jason. After 24 hours of searching, the police are forced to acknowledge the worst.
There was no body. I carried a cursory search, but there was no body.
It was quite frustrating, really, when they came away empty-handed.
Amazingly, Sue's vision of the broken tree has turned out to be accurate, but somebody has been back to the site and Jason's body is gone. Without it, a murder conviction is a near impossible task for the police. Over the following months, the police scour the Brecon Beacons using helicopters, dive teams, and sniffer dogs, every method available to them, except the powers of a psychic. Julie believes that where the police have failed, Sue will succeed.
I feel it's definitely near these 3 Celtic crosses. So we decided to go in the car and go up and have a look for ourselves to see if we could find any of these landmarks that Jason was showing us.
As we were driving along, we rounded a corner and I spotted a church behind some high sort of conifer trees.
And we found a Celtic cross. There was a Celtic cross there.
And as we approached it, I noticed that I could just see a Celtic cross in the grounds, and I said to Sue, there's one Celtic cross there.
Julie turned on and said, look behind, and there was 2 other Celtic crosses. So these were the 3 Celtic crosses we felt that Jason was showing us. The clues and the jigsaws were coming together, and we just had to trust that he'd guide us to him.
In South Wales, 2 very different investigations race to find the body of murder victim Jason Williams. The police search the Brecon Beacons but find no corpse. Jason's sister Julie turns to psychic Sue Evans. She is certain that Jason will be found near the 3 Celtic crosses. crosses that they have discovered in an old Welsh churchyard.
The fact that we actually found 3 Celtic crosses in one churchyard, which I think is quite unusual anyway.
You could feel his spirit around you, and you would feel a nice warmth.
I thought about it, and I really can't think how logically she could come up with as much accurate information as she has.
I would never have known these were here. And I do feel that Jason did draw us towards these to show he's in this area.
Sue is certain that Jason is nearby. Julie supplies the police with the psychic's vision, but they prefer not to act on information allegedly from beyond the grave.
So I'm used to them being skeptical. I'm used to not being acknowledged by some of them, even when what I've set out to do has happened. But I feel Julie did feel a lot of frustration because she'd be going there and saying, well, look, we're doing this, we're doing that, why aren't you helping?
The police have the confession of Sinfield and strong evidence pointing towards Davis as the murderer. But without Jason's body, taking Davis to court is risky. A conviction secured without a body is virtually unprecedented.
My understanding that there's been less than a dozen convictions in British judicial history, or it was at that stage, for a conviction of murder without a body. So we were mindful of that.
The police meticulously piece together a package that aims to prove that Jason is dead even without his body. It includes vital information from the crime scene.
We got an interpretation to the blood. There was a large pool of blood, so anyone who would have lost that amount of blood would have been seriously ill at that particular time. So that helped to support the fact that Jason Williams didn't leave the scene that night.
The hair discovered in the forest comes back with a DNA match with Jason. What Sinfield was saying all along seems to be true. Then detectives interview Davy's girlfriend, Jody Sinfield, and she confirms that he admits to stabbing Jason. The police decide to gamble on the skills of their forensic team, and in February 2002, Davis and Sinfield are put in front of a court of law. Sue's claims that she has spoken to the spirit world will also be put to the test.
It was spooky, for want of a better word. As I say, when certain things were coming up, you could actually feel the hairs on the back of your neck going up.
Julie claims that Sue continued to provide her family with visions of the murder, including details of the part that Davis played, the nature of the attack, and how Jason's body was moved. Now this information corresponds with what Julie hears in court.
They realised that a lot of the information that I'd given them was accurate, bang on. This proved that I was on the right track all the way through. Julie did go back to see the police and say, well, Sue had told us all this before it came out, and yet you still refused to let her in on this.
The thorough police investigation leaves no room for doubt. Sinfield gets 2 years for perverting the course of justice. Richard Davis is found guilty of Jason Williams' murder and sentenced to life. He continues to appeal against this judgment.
We were satisfied and pleased, obviously, with the fact that we had done a thorough investigation. But my thoughts are with the family of Jason Williams.
It's over 4 years since the trial. Jason still has no grave. His grieving family can only pay their respects at a memorial near the site where he was originally dumped.
Jason seems to have accepted things a lot better as the years have gone on. He seems to have a little bit more acceptance of what's happened to him, but the drive is just as strong. He still wants us to find his body. He's still around us, and he is only a thought away, and he pops into my mind quite often, quite regular.
Sue is certain that Jason is near the 3 crosses, and with police help she could find his body, but the controversy over the intervention of psychics and clairvoyants in criminal investigations remains.
Well, I feel that psychics are another tool that the police can use. I would like to see every police headquarters having psychics on their books.
It's nice to see Callum's dog is still here.
Oh, bless.
Yes, Callum's little dog. Because obviously he has no grave to go to.
No. It's a little present for his father.
Mm. I think she's been psychic from a child. To her, that is normal, and I get the impression she can't understand why we find it so amazing, because for her, it's fact.
Sue's relationship with Jason has had a lasting effect on her.
It proves that there's life after death, and it proves that your loved ones care for you after they've died, and that they still have emotions and feelings even though they're dead. I will always keep looking for him, and I will always be there for him for as long as I can.
Pub landlord Mick Hughes is ferociously attacked in the living quarters above his bar. He's battered and beaten over the head and left bleeding to die. After hundreds of hours of investigation, the police are baffled. They just don't have enough evidence to make an arrest.
There was a feeling of a marathon about that inquiry.
Local psychic Angela McGee visits the scene of the crime.
I could see a vision of Mick's body lying under the window. Actually could see his injuries.
Her spirit allies show her the terrible truth.
I got this awful shudder through me. And I realised then that I was actually looking at the culprit.
Can Angela's supernatural visions help bring the brutal killer to justice? Sunday, April 27th, 2003. Police race towards the quiet village of Pelsall near Birmingham, towards the Royal Oak pub. Staff arriving for work have found the body of the landlord, Mick Hughes, brutally bludgeoned to death. Detective Inspector Ian Bamber and Detective Constable Mike Crump have the job of catching the killer.
Mick's body was found in his private bedroom area that was on the first floor of the pub.
He had sustained serious head injuries consistent with him being struck with an object.
The attack had been ferocious, sustained, and really malicious. If offenders had meant to incapacitate him, to render him unconscious or knock him out, you could have easily done that with one or two blows. But no, they hit him again and again and again. The bedroom upstairs where Mick slept was ransacked.
All the early indications suggested was that it had been a burglary that had gone drastically wrong.
Michael Hughes was a family man, just 2 months away from his 60th birthday. His daughter Sharon is devastated by the news.
You see it on TV, but until you've actually lived it, you can't describe how it destroys you as a person and as a family. You really can't. They asked me and my sister if we could go down to the morgue and identify my dad's body. It was the worst thing I've ever had to do in my life.
Sharon and her family are desperate for justice. But despite weeks of intensive forensic investigation and hundreds of interviews with local people, the police cannot find any conclusive evidence. A neighboring publican decides to call in psychic medium Angela McGee.
I had a phone call from a friend and she asked me to go down to help with the local murder. And my reaction was, what if they don't believe, you know? I'm not going to go down there and look stupid. I said, I'll wait till I get a message through spirit. I'll wait till the right moment.
Within days, that moment comes.
Well, I had a message from my own father in spirit. It was him that actually told me to go. He said, "What about this murder? What about this murder?" And then I knew I had to go. I believe that mediumship, you are an instrument of the spirit world. It's not voluntary. You just do what you have to do.
Angela drives to the Royal Oak pub. She's never been here before and knows nothing about the murder, but that is about to change.
I sat there in meditation for a little while, said my prayers, and put my hands up and said, "Dear God, what have I got to tell these people?" With that, I had a vision. I saw 3 men climbing up a black fire escape staircase, over the roof, over the railings, and in through the French windows. And I thought to myself, that is where they've got in this building.
Emboldened by her vision, Angela decides to go in. She is greeted by Beryl Chapman, former partner of Mick Hughes, who is looking after the Royal Oak. Beryl shows Angela to the living quarters of the pub. She stands in the hall. Then suddenly she is shown a second vision.
I could see bodies struggling, as if there was a real push-pull-you type thing going on, and there was blood. It was just a flash, literally a flash, a vision.
Angela goes to the bedroom where Mick met his grisly fate. As she moves into the room, Spirit sends her another terrifying glimpse of the past.
Again, another flash, a vision. I could see a vision of Mick's body lying under the window. Actually could see his injuries in his head and down the one side.
Now Angela sees something wonderful.
And all of a sudden, I saw Mick in my mind's eye.
The spirit of the dead publican appears standing before her.
And he was making a point of a thick gold chain bracelet which was holding up.
Mick tells Angela that his killer also stole his bracelet.
Mick said that he knew that person, he had drunk with that person, he had fished with that person, he knew that person very, very well. I felt totally aghast. I just thought, take a deep breath here, I can't believe what I've just heard.
It's an astonishing revelation. But before Angela can react, she has another vision. 3 men running away.
It's almost as if they've rushed past me, and if I could feel their panic. But one of them had something the size of a shoebox with him. That's all I saw.
Angela has never experienced such an incredible barrage of visions, but as she leaves the pub, she has the most terrifying insight of all.
As I walked through the pub, I glanced at the bar, and there behind the bar was a young man pulling pints. I got this awful shudder through me, complete coldness. I just felt that there was complete emptiness there, as if it got no soul. And I realised then that I was actually looking at the culprit.
Not waiting to see his face, Angela runs from the pub. If she's correct, the killer is still right under the noses of the police. Landlord Mick Hughes has been brutally murdered above his pub, the Royal Oak, by person or persons unknown. Psychic Angela McGee has visited the scene of the crime. Her spirit allies sent her an astonishing series of visions containing clues about the murder.
I saw the vision of 3 men going up to the black fire escape staircase. I then saw Mick's body. I saw Mick himself. I saw 3 men leaving with something the size of a shoebox. I glanced at the bar, and I realised then that I was actually looking at the culprit.
Despite months of painstaking investigation, the police still don't have enough solid evidence to make an arrest.
And when there was a feeling of a marathon about that inquiry.
There was a great deal of information coming in that was being looked at, but little that was helping us to get to the bottom of what had actually happened.
The police are running out of options when fate leads them to Angela.
In the course of my inquiries, I met a woman who had met Angela McGee at one of her psychic meetings. This woman stated that Angela had discussed the murder with her.
We decided that whilst the evidential opportunities might be limited, it would really be foolhardy and a bit ignorant not to at least go and speak to Angela.
Mike Crump and a colleague go to Angela's house to interview her.
She invited us in. She made us a cup of tea, and we spoke to Angela about what she knew.
Angela tells the police about her vision on the fire escape and of the body in the bedroom. She had no way of knowing these things, but her account matches closely what police found in forensic examination.
I was startled and sceptical, equally curious and intrigued.
Now she really begins to surprise the police.
She claimed that 3 men had been involved in the murder and that one of those men had known Michael Hughes.
It sounds incredible, but Angela's information fits with a number of theories the police are working on.
To put numbers on offenders raised some eyebrows, but from analysing the scene and trying to generate some hypotheses around what had happened, I think we were all fairly comfortable that it was more than one.
She'd had a vision of them running away, one of them carrying a shoebox-shaped object.
The police know what Angela does not, that a safe the size of a shoebox was taken from the pub.
We clearly knew that the safe had been ripped from its housing, so to hear Angela describe a box-shaped object being carried by a man was fascinating.
Angela's visions confirm facts the police already know or things they suspect.
Her account fitted in on a number of features with the hypotheses that we were running on. The difficulty for us was trying to match any evidential facts that we knew about with Angela's vision.
At the time of speaking to Angela, I was a little cynical and sceptical about the information she was providing, but in the fullness of time it was quite surprising how accurate some of the information she provided turned out to be.
Angela has given the police fresh clues, but for now they don't know what to make of them. The lead officer tries to reassure Mick's grieving family.
He'd come out and he'd explain there is things happening and we are working, but obviously we can't tell you everything in case it leaks out or in case it's wrong information we're receiving. He said, but trust me, we will sort this out and we will come one day with the answers for you.
For the police, the pressure is on. Then Angela McGee has another startling revelation.
I woke up the one morning, as I do sometimes, with messages. What I kept getting in my mind was a dolphin, block switch, dolphin, block switch.
Angela phones a friend to tell her about the message.
I was telling her about, I'm sure this is to do with the murder. I was getting the dolphin, block switch, a dolphin, block switch. And she said, there's a dolphin pub. I wanted to relay that information to Mike Crump, so I gave him a call.
Operation Greenside, DC Crump speaking, how can I help you?
And I told him about the dolphin and block switch and that something would happen in 3 days. All of a sudden, I get a name.
Yeah, OK, let's just get a pad and I'll just write it down.
I felt it was more like a nickname of either Daz or Gaz. And I felt that was also associated with murder.
Angela's information is relayed to the incident room, but for now, it's useless. Then, the police make a key discovery. They find the missing safe in a canal.
This is the canal at Slacky Lane, from where we recovered the safe that was from the Royal Oak pub. It was a breakthrough. It is important that we recover physical evidence, such as the safe.
Suddenly, Angela's message about the dolphin becomes clear.
And the Dolphin Public House is situated just at the top of the road, about 150 yards away from the spot where I'm standing now.
There is no earthly way that Angela could have known this.
At the time that Angela spoke to us about the Dolphin Public House, there was no obvious connection between that pub and our investigation. It hadn't featured at all. At the very least, it was interesting.
Police are left wondering about Angela's message of the nickname.
The difficulty for us, where do you put Angela? What do you do with what Angela can tell you? And the problem is that you can't use it, can you? You can't ask Angela to step into a Crown Court witness box and on oath say, I'm a medium and I know what happened. It's completely inadmissible.
To convict, they still need more concrete evidence. Then, exactly 6 months after the murder, the Royal Oak pub is burgled again. This time, police get the lead they've been waiting for.
Bizarrely, on the exact 6-month anniversary of Mick's death at the pub was broken into again in very chillingly similar circumstances.
This time, eyewitnesses recognize the thief. Part-time bartender Gavin Chapman, son of Beryl Chapman, Mick Hughes' partner at the Royal Oak.
Gavin Chapman had a severe drug problem. We believed he was addicted to heroin and possibly crack cocaine. Michael Hughes was always quite suspicious that Gavin was taking money from him in various forms in order to fund his drug addiction.
The police had always suspected Gavin Chapman might be involved in the murder, but he has an alibi with 2 other men, Stephen Lockley and Lee Worgan.
We had evidence that cast doubt on their movements in terms of the accounts that they had given. But as far as convicting them for a murder was concerned, we had very little.
Now the police take a gamble. They bring all 3 men in for questioning. One by one, the men are interrogated and their stories scrutinized.
In the initial stages, they stuck by their witness statements.
I think they thought that if they maintained their original pack of lies, that they would walk. I'm sure that they were that blasé and confident that they thought that they could just bluff it out.
Relatively quickly into the interview process, one of them changed the story.
And they began to point the finger at each other.
The men confess to burgling the Royal Oak on the night of the murder. They accuse each other of being the killer. Police decide to charge them all with murder as a joint enterprise. It's a bold strategy.
There was a concern that was at the back of my mind that around that joint enterprise argument, the jury wouldn't be able to clearly identify in their own minds who it was that struck the fatal blows.
We felt that we had a very good and a very strong case, but you are in the hands of the jury.
You're hopeful, but you've always just, you're crossing 2 fingers and hoping for the best.
The trial is set for October 2004 in Birmingham, with 3 men charged, at least one of whom knew Mick and worked behind the bar. Everything that Angela told the police seems to be coming true. Gavin Chapman, Lee Worgan and Stephen Lockley are set to be tried for Mick Hughes' murder. Waiting for the result, Angela goes on with her normal work as a medium.
It was a few months later, after I had my visit to the Royal Oak, that I had a phone call.
Carol Hall has lost her mother and wants a medium to contact her in spirit.
I had no previous knowledge of Angela before this phone number was handed to me. In fact, she was one of about 4 numbers that were handed to me. And the reason I picked Angela was because she was the one more local, because I didn't know if there was a radius to how far they'd travel. And like the address was pretty local, so I thought I'd go for Angela.
Angela visits Carol one evening at her home.
Angela sat in the bedroom and I sat on the chair, more or less opposite to her.
the spirit of a mother came through. And I felt that a mother's energy was all around the bedroom where we were. And then I told Carol that her mother was with her son in spirit.
Got to talking about it, and then they just said, which was the devastating bit, who's Michael? And that was when I just went to pieces, and I says, that was my brother. And she said, your mum's telling me she called him Michael, everybody else called him Mick, which was spot on.
Then all of a sudden, I had a flash of the Royal Oak and a flash of Mick in my mind. And I said, it's Mick from the Royal Oak murder.
The look on Angela's face, it couldn't be captured on tape when she suddenly realised who she was talking about. She said, he keeps telling me, I've been there, and he says, can I ask, is it the pub in Pelsall? And I says, yeah.
It's an amazing revelation. Angela didn't know it, but Carol Hall is Mick Hughes' sister. Mick's spirit has sought her out again.
I could hear Mick say that he would see justice, and he would see justice 3 times. All I heard was justice, justice, justice. And then I says to Carol, I can see the family with their hands up in the air in triumph. And he also said something about Stafford and time, which I had to relay, which didn't make sense to me at the time.
With the trial hanging in the balance, Angela's message gives comfort to Carol.
With my brother coming through via Angela and saying that justice will be done, she was so right with Mum. I wanted this to be so right as well.
But until the jury gives their verdict, the family can only hope that Angela's telling the truth. Just days before the trial is due to start in Birmingham, part of Mick's message becomes clear. Another case has overrun. The trial is moved to Stafford Crown Court.
The court case, up until the Friday prior to the Monday's date for the court case, was going to be Birmingham, then it was going to be Wolverhampton, and on the Monday we had to go to Stafford, which was uncanny, very uncanny, because we weren't aware of that, nobody was.
For police and the family, it's a tense time.
You've always got that element of doubt in the back of your mind, and you're worried about how the jury will perceive the evidence that you feel is very strong, and how your witnesses will come across as well.
The trial runs for 3 long weeks.
I was struck by how appallingly badly the 3 male defendants conducted themselves throughout the whole trial. They sat at the back of the court and grinned, chuckled to each other, made smug comments about some of the witnesses that appeared in the witness box. And when they were ultimately asked to give evidence, they made the worst job of it I've ever seen in my life. They were absolutely appalling. They were flippant, clearly telling lies. Chapman was asked whether he wanted to take the oath, and his very first words to the jury were, whatever. He did himself no favours.
To hear people read it out as to the horrific injuries and how they occurred and how many times they hit my dad, that was really hard. And at one stage my mum and my 2 brothers had to leave because they couldn't cope. Because to everybody else it's a story, to us it was our dad.
Finally, the moment of truth arrives.
When the jury went out, the courtroom is charged with emotion.
It's all right, you're just sitting there thinking, please God, let them say guilty.
The 3 men are found guilty. As Angela predicted, justice has been done 3 times.
Each of the 3 men were convicted of the murder of Michael Hughes. They were also convicted of burglary and attempting to pervert the course of justice in terms of having lied to us in the form of their witness statements.
It was just unreal. It was a dream come true.
As the family leave court, a photographer is waiting.
He said, well, for the picture, you're going to have to punch the air and smile.
In a flash, Angela's last vision becomes reality.
But when I saw them, their hands go up, and I thought, yeah, that's completed the picture now.
Angela's messages to the police and the family seem to have proved uncannily accurate.
On speaking to Angela initially, I was quite cynical and sceptical about the nature of the information she provided. But in the fullness of time, aspects of it turned out to be quite accurate. Whilst it was always of limited value to us as police officers, this was nevertheless surprising.
Stepping outside the police officer function and thinking about myself as a person and Carol and Sharon spending some time with Angela, if I found myself in the same circumstances and I saw that olive branch of hope, would I reach out for it? Yeah, I probably would.
It's been an incredible experience for Angela.
I feel I've done my job's worth. I know that I work for the God Energy Force and the God Energy Spirit, and I'm just an instrument. But to me, it's like a pat on the back, I think. It was just a nice pat on the back.
(1983) West London. 25-year-old Jackie Poole is assaulted and strangled to death in her own home.
It was such a nasty murder.
Despite a thorough police investigation, there's just not enough evidence to convict a killer. A local psychic believes she is visited by the victim's vengeful spirit. In a supernatural trance, she is taken back to the murder scene.
And I could see it as plain as anything was Porky.
But what part would her visions of the name Pokey and a brown sweater play in solving this brutal crime?
I could feel Jackie saying to me, ring them now.
Would a psychic's paranormal powers or hard forensic science nail Jackie's killer? Saturday, the 12th of February, 1983. Ruislip, a busy suburb 17 miles west of central London. Local psychic Christine Holohan's sixth sense has been on high alert all weekend.
I knew something was wrong, and I couldn't quite put my finger on it. A feeling of coldness in the room. I'd hear footsteps, I'd sort of hear the door opening and closing. It was a sense of feeling of gloom. I was wondering what was happening. This was extremely intense.
Was Christine's psychic experience connected to the incredible events that were about to be played out? The next day, a concerned friend of Jacqueline Poole contacts the police. The recently separated shop assistant hasn't been seen for 2 days and isn't answering her phone. A young police constable and the father of Jackie's boyfriend break in to discover that the popular 25-year-old has been sexually assaulted and strangled. Heading up the investigation team is Detective Superintendent Tony Lundy.
Well, first of all, there was no forced entry to the premises. So she'd let somebody in or they'd con their way in. There were no broken windows, doors, or anything. So it seemed pretty obvious it's somebody who she associates with.
Jackie has been strangled to death with a cord. Personal items have been stolen and her clothing is in disarray.
She was fanatical at wearing rings and necklaces and bracelets and stuff, but basically the lot had gone. I think there may have been something left on her finger that couldn't come off, but everything that could be removed had gone.
Jackie's body has lain undiscovered for some 48 hours. The killer has a head start. Police begin to interview Jackie's friends and family for vital clues and release details of the attack to the press.
It became obvious from a very early stage that it was going to be a difficult investigation because the fact there'd been no break into the premises, we were really looking at close connections. Her husband had left her some time before, so obviously he was a possibility as a suspect from the word go, and numerous names were flooding in right really from the outset.
The night after the body is discovered, just 3 miles away, Christine Holohan claims her psychic abilities are put to the test once again.
And after a while, I could see him like starting to appear, and he started to get bigger, and eventually there was like a shape. And from the shape, I could see the outline of a young woman. She seemed very agitated and very sort of frustrated, and I sort of said, like, I'm going to take a chance here. So I said, are you the young lady that's been murdered? And so I said, is it Jackie Poole? And she said, Jackie Hunt.
Why is the spirit calling herself Jackie Hunt, and what connection does she have with the murder victim?
So I asked her, how did she want me to help her? So she told me that she knew who had murdered her. And I explained to her that I would have to have solid evidence. I couldn't go to the police and just say somebody appeared to me and said they were murdered. I had to be able to go to the police with something positive. And then all of a sudden, then she went, and I thought, oh, that's it, she's gone. I was anxious of going to the police in case I would give them information that they would think I got from other sources or from a paper.
Christine is desperate for more clues. Amazingly, the spirit returns the following night.
It was like I was watching a television scene. It's like I flashed onto another level. It was then that I felt I was taken on a journey. I was just feeling what she was feeling. I felt myself in this flat, and I got a terrible sense of feeling that I was being dragged in slow motion as if she was still going through it. And it was horrible. And I could see all the struggle, and I could see what was happening.
Christine believes she is a psychic witness to murder and sees a woman called Jackie Hunt being attacked by a young man. She claims she is shown the layout of the victim's home. It's not much to go on, but she cannot ignore the spirit's pleas for justice.
I started, realizing what she'd gone through, and thought, if I go to the police, and I leave myself open to the person who actually murdered her, I started to think of lots of things. You're going to protect yourself. I was a bit afraid.
Christine is desperate to describe what she has seen to the police. But murder investigation teams are skeptical over the use of psychics, and she must risk ridicule.
I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to ring them, but I also knew that she just was not going to go away. So it's like she was my friend now. She wasn't just that she was a victim who came to me looking for help. She was now my friend. Eventually, I could feel Jackie saying to me, ring them now. I could hear really plain in my ears, ring them now.
While the psychic builds up courage to call the police with crucial information, the murder investigation team work around the clock to nail the killer.
You don't often get called out to scenes of murder where a young lady has been beaten, strangled, and it was a very, very nasty crime scene.
With no sign of a break-in, police investigate the theory that Christine knew her killer.
She had many, many friends, all from her same age group, from being brought up in the area and so on. And we had to eliminate over 70 suspects. Many you could eliminate quickly, but many, many, many were explored at length, and that made it very difficult.
Christine Holohan claims she has visions of the murder sent to her by a spirit called Jackie Hunt. The local psychic feels she can no longer ignore the ghost's pleas for help. and risks ridicule by contacting the police.
I must admit I'm not one who's much of a believer in that, but at the same time, obviously, any possibilities to help you, you're going to explore them.
Constables Andrew Smith and Tony Batters are sent to interview the psychic. Unknown to Christine, Tony Batters was the first police officer at the murder scene. Sadly, Tony passed away in 2003. His widow, Anne, remembers the day that would change his life forever.
I think it could well have been the first time he'd actually found a victim. And she was young. It was a horrific murder. Because he had been the first officer on the scene and had actually stayed at the scene for several hours, he knew the layout, what the situation was in the flat, things that had been broken or turned over or something that was out of place. He believed there would be nobody else who would know that detail other than himself.
If Christine's claims were true, then convincing this hardened skeptic with first-hand knowledge of the crime scene would be a major challenge.
I thought, oh God, here goes. And I was tuning and saying, oh, Jackie, I hope you're here. I really hope you're here at this stage. And she was. She went to explain everything that she could possibly explain. She went to as much details as she could possibly give me. I explained that when she came through, I asked her, was she Jackie Poole? And she said, Jackie Hunt.
The psychic's first piece of information is a hit. Tony Batters knows that Jackie Poole's maiden name is Hunt. They are the same woman.
Maybe I was hitting on something, but I didn't know what it was. I hadn't got a clue. She showed me around the house. She explained exactly where everything was.
Christine claims she is transported back to the crime scene and is able to see 2 cups in the kitchen, prescription forms, and a black address book. Amazingly, this tallies with what Tony has seen at Jackie's flat less than a week earlier. These details were not released to the press after the murder.
And I could see where she was lying, and I could see her hand. There was 2 rings in particular he couldn't get off her hand.
Jackie's missing jewelry was reported in the local papers, but nothing specific had been mentioned about the 2 rings that had been left on her body.
She also sort of was very insistent that there was a jumper that he was going to be thrown away. And she said it's important to get this jumper because if you don't, she said, it's going to be gone.
Christine claims that she never met Jackie or any of her acquaintances when she was alive. But during her trance, she uses the names of many of Jackie's friends and family. One name is a mystery.
She mentioned Barbara Stone, and she didn't give me any significance on the name, but I said anything she gives me, I'll take on board.
No one on the investigation has ever heard of Barbara Stone. Despite the puzzling name, Tony is amazed by the psychic's insight.
At this point, he said, ask Jackie to describe her killer. And she explained he's 23. He had a birthday April or May, he'd been Taurus. He had dark hair, dark skin. He had tattoo.
Christine seems to give the police officers a profile of the murderer. But nothing would be more useful than a name.
So I said I would just very quietly go into a trance. I really had to tune in very, very strong with Jackie. I'd really bring her into me close. And I could feel her. It was like as if she actually really came through, as if she was inside of me.
The psychic resorts to a technique called remote writing, which unlocks her unconscious. She hopes this psychic skill will reveal the all-important name.
Jackie helped me spell out the name. She'd actually got the attention of the police, and this was it. And I could see it as plain as anything. It was Porky. I knew at that point I had actually hit something significant had happened, though he never actually quite said anything about it.
Over 20 years later, Christine Holohan returns to the room where she used a paranormal technique called remote writing to reveal a name of a killer.
No, it was like as if somebody had taken my hand and very, very slowly had actually written out the name, very slowly. And then it started to come up. The minute I'd written it, it came up very clear. And so we got Pokey. She said it was a nickname. It's a nickname. He's known as a nickname. And I can remember Tony saying to me, Pokey, are you sure? And I said, that's what, and I showed him. And he seemed quite taken back when he looked at what I'd written. It was like as if I'd sort of touched on a nerve.
The name Pokey sends shivers down the spine of the two detectives. It is the nickname of Anthony Ruark. He is a friend of Jackie's boyfriend and is well known by the victim. Ruark is already amongst the murder team's prime suspects and has already been questioned.
Well, I felt I'd done all I could possibly do, and I got a sense of feeling from Jackie as if she sort of was saying to me, look, if that's not convinced him, you know, what is going to convince him?
That same day, Tony Batters returns to the murder squad convinced by the psychic's abilities.
He was just amazed, totally amazed that she could have that sort of information.
Now, Tony must persuade the rest of his team to trust the testimony of a ghost.
I'd said to Batters that she was telling us something that she'd heard from the locals, and she didn't have any information whatsoever that could assist us on the inquiry at all.
During the attack, Jackie had jewelry stolen. It is crucial in the hunt for her killer.
And my attitude was that when she can tell us where the jewellery is or something conclusive to assist us, then I'll believe in mediums. But at this stage, just don't waste my time.
The police discount the work of the psychic and set about extracting the truth from Pokey.
Not the easiest person to obviously break down, especially when you're interviewing them about a very, very horrible, serious murder. But the officers who did interview him were fairly convinced that he was involved. The difficulty was being convinced, and finding evidence to back it up is another matter.
Christine had told Tony Batters that Jackie's killer is a Taurus in his early 20s and that he is dark-haired, dark-skinned with tattoos. Amazingly, this corresponds with Pokey's profile. The spirit of Jackie was desperate to draw attention to a sweater. Police have already retrieved this vital clue. DCI Norman McKinley was to become closely involved with Jackie's case.
During the search of Tony Ruark's house, and in a dustbin, they found a jumper. This jumper was submitted to the forensic laboratory, and of course, fibers having come from Jacqueline's clothing, and also plaster particles, which was also found on Jacqueline's clothing, was also found on this jumper.
The evidence forensically links Pokey with Jackie, but the murder suspect has an explanation.
The problem that the police had was that Ruark knew Jackie. He did say that he had spoken to her during the week prior to her death, so contact had been made then.
Despite a psychic pointing the finger at Pokey and the police suspecting this known criminal, after a 15-month investigation, the team is shut down.
We have this evidence, we have that evidence, but it was never, ever going to be sufficient at that time to instigate a prosecution. So that was the low point, but closing it down when the family still had no solution to it was very, very disappointing.
Tony Batters' appeals to work with the psychic are ignored. Now he has to deal with the investigation team being disbanded.
Oh, he was very frustrated because they obviously had done a lot of work and they thought that they had enough evidence.
Christine believes Jackie is devastated that her killer walks free.
She was so angry in the sense that he walked away from the murder as if he had absolutely no feelings either way.
The psychic remains frustrated by the police skepticism.
I done the very best I could possibly do. I gave him the information. I trusted the information that Jackie gave me was accurate, and I knew there was nothing else I could really do. I always somehow believed that there would be justice someday. I just didn't know when.
Christine is certain the unsolved murder will be reinvestigated, and it is. In 1999, some 15 years after the main inquiry was shut down, Christine has another visitation from a troubled spirit.
And I could see an image of a blonde-haired woman. And I kept looking and I kept thinking that it looked like Jackie, but I said, I must be imagining this. Couldn't understand what the significance of that would be.
Unknown to the psychic, the police reinvestigate the 16-year-old murder case after an informant brings in new leads on a suspect that is not Pokey. Was the apparition a coincidence, or Jackie trying to let Christine know that the hunt for her killer had started again? In the intervening years, a cutting-edge DNA technology had been developed that should allow police to test forensic evidence taken from Jackie's flat 16 years ago.
The introduction of DNA low copy number, or LCN, was completely new. The DNA technology in 2001 and even today is very accurate, so much that the forensic scientists can identify one person in 1 billion from a DNA profile. We had every opportunity now to solve a murder, and particular for the benefit of Jacqueline's family, to ensure that justice was done for them.
Bodily fluids collected from the crime scene and skin extracted from under Jackie's nails are examined by forensic scientists. But the new DNA technology will take 12 months to deliver the results. The wait is agonizing.
I got a telephone call from the Home Office laboratory, and I couldn't believe it, that the bodily swab had produced a full profile.
Is Pokey the killer?
The DNA LCN match, the full profile, came down to Tony Rourke, who also is known as Pokey.
Amazingly, the results tally with the name that had been scrawled on a notepad by psychic Christine Holohan over 17 years ago.
He was arrested on Wednesday, the 24th of May, in a car park in Cirencester. He was arrested for the murder of Jacqueline Poole.
Pokey is stunned to discover that he is being arrested for a crime that he was certain he'd walked away from. And in August 2001, he is tried at the Old Bailey in London.
We've suspected him all these years, and now at last, hopefully, he's going to get his comeuppance and go away for a long, long time. Everybody was hoping that the verdict was going to go the right way. I was with, obviously, the brothers of the victim, and I mean, the evidence had been very strong, but you can never be 100% sure with juries. So they were very, very anxious and very, very, wary of the verdict.
Tony Batters attends the 2-week trial. The retired police officer had listed 130 specific points that Christine claimed she received from Jackie's spirit. Now, he wanted to see just how many were correct.
I think it would have been really that he needed to know for himself. He had to prove it for himself. But the amount of information that Christine did give, if that was available to other murder inquiries, then obviously it would be very valuable.
According to Tony's notes, an amazing 120 facts match information brought out during the trial, including personal details about Jackie, the layout of the crime scene, and how Jackie knew her killer.
Although Christine lived locally, she didn't know Jackie, she didn't know her family, she didn't know her circle of friends at all. But it's just in the amount of detail that she gave, and most of it was proven to be correct.
The new DNA evidence is used to establish Pokey was at Jackie's flat on the day of the murder. The plaster particles taken from the brown pullover that Jackie had told Christine about are also produced as evidence.
The jumper, which had been retained by police in a sealed bag from 1983, was produced in evidence at Rourke's trial and played a significant part.
Pokey amends his story and claims he visited Jackie on the night of the murder, but that she was alive when he left. The solid prosecution evidence challenges this, and after 2 weeks, the jury is unanimously convinced of Pokey's guilt, and he is sentenced to life imprisonment. Justice at last for Jackie's family.
And when eventually the guilty verdict was brought in, they were absolutely over the moon. I mean, they were virtually shouting out in joy.
There is one final twist in the tale. The mysterious name, Barbara Stone, given to police by Christine nearly 20 years ago, becomes another psychic hit.
During the Old Bailey trial, Tony was sitting next to one of Jackie's brothers, and he asked him, did the name Barbara Stone mean anything? And he said, well, yes, of course, it was Jackie's best friend, but she had been killed in a road accident about a year or two before Jackie had been killed. So that was the answer to the name.
Christine's involvement in the Jackie Poole case hits the headlines. Her psychic skills have converted Tony Batters into a true believer.
She'd have had to be pretty good. He thought the information must have come directly from Jackie, because there was no other way that Christine would have had the detail of information that she had given the police.
Christine receives one final visit from her old friend.
And she was smiling, and she had found happiness, and she seemed to have, she was a different person than I'd seen 18 years earlier. I felt very happy that she had found peace, and I sort of felt sad, because I felt like this was closure all around. Jackie was gone.
This extraordinary relationship had spanned nearly 2 decades.
She was very, very special. She'll be always a very special part of my life, one way or another.